And it's their intrinsic
And then,
nature.
this food basically robs you.
Sound, feel, sound like.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. And I'm back again to talk about yet another video. And I wanted to play this video so you guys can listen to the mindset of some black folks. And you can call this guy a coon, you can call him whatever you want. Believe it or not, this is the actual mindset of some black people, and they do not understand why things are the way that it is. And I doubt they want to. Some people just given up on black people. Some black people have just given up on their race. And you got to understand what's going on and why it may seem that black people we are just savages and we are responsible for everything that's going on in the black community. But you have to realize what has taken place. Now take a look.
Obama shouldn't try to ban guns. He should ban niggas. Did you know that 52% of all murders in the United States were committed by black people? Did you also know that black people only represent 13% of all people in the United States? What does that tell you? What does that say to you? When someone goes and shoots up a school, your president says we need to take away guns. But what about when someone holds a city so hostage that they call it Chirac? What would you call those people? What would you call them, Mr. President? I'd call them savages. I'd call them thugs. But I'll just use the word that you probably use on your census. African American or black. See, black people don't like it when other races look at them as savages, but if all of the murders that were done in your city, state, town, country, continent, world, when half of them were done by 13% of the population, what would you think? That's what the United States is dealing with. 13% of its people are committing over half of its murders, but you can't say anything about it. Now, if white people were killing black people, say if they were black people being killed, and 50% of all black people were being killed by white people, what would we say? We'd say we have a race problem. We'd say whites were racist. Imagine if 50% of anything that was so-called looked up to were black. What if 50% of all college graduates were black? Well, guess what black people would have you do? Well, for those of you who've been following the Oscar incident, you'd know that black people would be wanting a pat on the back, a butt kissing. And if you didn't do it, you were racist. If you didn't give them an award for it, you were racist, because they'd say only 13% of the population are black, but 50% of doctors are black, 50% of lawyers are black, 50% of engineers, 50% of graduates. What if 50% of people in Harvard were black? They'd want you to cheer for them. Need to give us our propers. But apparently you can't say nothing about black people that they deem bad. If a white man said, oh, I have no problem with interracial dating, I just don't think I could do it. I'd rather stick to my own kind. He'd be called racist immediately. Where's this coming from? It's coming from the idea that white liberals have made it to where telling the truth is a bad thing. And that's why I look at you and think, if we ban guns, guns don't have a mind of their own. Guns don't walk down the street and kill people. Guess who does? Niggas. The numbers bear it out. Over 50% of all murders in the United States are committed by niggas. Now, white people aren't allowed to say that. We think that a woman is racist if she clutches her purse when she sees a black person. Or if you walk on the other side of the street and you see a gang of black folks. Well, let me tell you what I do. If I get in the elevator and a bunch of pants sagging, tattooed up black dudes get in that elevator with me, guess what I do? I get the hell out. There are more people murdered in a day by niggly bears than in a year by grizzly bears. Niggly bears are out there just killing everyone that they can. But people are told that they're racist if they say they want to avoid them. Black people don't like niggas. They don't. We dislike them. They scare us. Because we know one thing about niggas that regular black people, a big difference. Niggas have nothing to live for. Niggas don't value life. Niggas don't have to value life. Niggas don't have to have anything to live for. We have white liberals who make them feel bad about everything they do purposefully. See, a nigga could go out and kill 32 people. A white liberal's gonna say it was because his mama didn't have money. For some reason, because of an economic circumstance, you are able to lose your morality, your moral responsibility of not murdering another person. For some reason, there are other poor people in the United States. There are poor whites. There are poor all kinds of people. And yet they're not murdering at the same rate in which black people are. Black Lives Matter. 16 shots. Now, I know black folks who've been shot 16 times by other black folks. I know black children who were shot a whole bunch of times, Tashawn Lee, by black folks, and yet there was no march. There was no outcry by the NAACP. There was no nothing. Nobody even talks about it to this day. The question is why? Why? You want to ban guns, Barack Obama, and that's understandable, but this is to explain that video. You'd have a greater success banning niggas than guns. Because again, guns don't think. The person behind the trigger is the one that's supposed to think. But when a nigga's the one that owns it, it acts. It doesn't think. There are a lot of good black people in the United States who have to remain silent because they fear the retribution of niggas. Because niggas are so violent that if you speak out against what it is that they're doing, they will kill you. You're not supposed to want to speak the English language correctly. You're not supposed to want to wear your pants at your waist. Someday, black people are going to realize that niggas are your downfall. Someday, you're going to realize that white people are having a hard time figuring out the difference between niggas and blacks. Or maybe they treat niggas and blacks like I treat snakes. I don't want to figure out which one is poisonous. Because even if it's not poisonous, I think it still hurt me. Maybe that's how they're starting to look at us. Too many of us are looking at niggas and identifying with them. We're looking at niggas and actually saying, that's my nigga. One day we're going to have to make a choice. Them or us. Because remember, right now, that 13% is murdering 52% of all murders that happen in your nation. So Barack Obama, if you think guns are bad, where do you put one in a nigga's hand?
You weren't trying to rob me. You just getting random people's cars, huh?
I'm Rachel Stockman reporting from Northwest Atlanta. The victim, Hashim Fannin, held this would-be robber at gunpoint after he says the suspect hopped into the passenger side of his car at the Family Dollar in Northwest Atlanta and tried to carjack him.
He gets out of the car, he thinks he's gonna leave, and I told him, no, there's no leaving. You know, leaving was before you hopped in my car. At this point, there's no leaving.
About 2 minutes later, you can see police arrive, give the victim a handshake, and then put the suspect in cuffs.
A group of friends walk into a Waffle House in the early morning hours of January 5th. Right off the bat, you can tell something's off. Surveillance video shows a shirtless man, later identified as Dakota Fields, gesturing at someone or something. From another camera angle, you can see two men, Gerard Williams and Jorge Hernandez, sitting at the restaurant counter. According to a detective's incident report, Williams stated that Dakota Fields was yelling racial slurs at them. He then told the waitress to hurry up because it was time for him to go. Surveillance shows one of Fields' friends, Robert Black, approaching Jorge Hernandez and then shakes his hand. Black then tried to do the same with Williams, and you can see he has his hands crossed and shakes his head no. Robert Black then punches Williams in the face. Williams backs up and shows his gun. Seconds later, Dakota Fields runs back into the restaurant, charges at Williams, and then Williams pulls the trigger. Fields was shot 3 times. He and his friends then leave, and on their way to the hospital, their SUV crashes with another car. Fields was pronounced dead on scene. Documents show that after shooting Fields, Williams set the gun on the restaurant counter and called 911. He told the operator what had happened and that he acted in self-defense. He also had his concealed carry permit. When questioned by detectives, several other witnesses inside the Waffle House say Fields and his friends were acting drunk, confrontational, and unruly the night of the shooting. When Dakota Fields' friend Robert Black was interviewed by detectives, he told them that Williams had reached for a gun when he tried to shake his hand. Surveillance video showing that never happened, and he later admitted it was a lie.
Now, first, let me say this about this video, because some of the stuff he's saying, he's slightly correct. But the thing is, you don't make a video like this as a black person. You don't make a video like this and give racist white people ammunition, give them bullets to use against us, and say that, you know, it's just niggas. Niggas is the problem. It's niggas. And don't explain what you mean by that. Because to him, if he actually believed that, oh, it's just niggas, something just wrong with us and we just killing each other because we want to. We just going around looking for any other nigga to kill and just destroy their lives. And there's nothing behind none of that, because this is what he's implying in the video. First off, you need to understand this, that black people have been psychologically programmed to be exactly what we are. We have been programmed to be murderers and killers and to not see the worth in each other. As I said in the last video I did, the black child, white child experiment proves that kids at that young of an age, black kids, can look at themselves and not see worth, can look at themselves and say that I'm bad, I'm ugly. That is psychological programming for you to hate yourself. If you've seen the one when a white girl did the test, the white girl said that the white dolls was good because they looked like her. The black dolls was bad because they didn't look like her. But the black kid said that the black dolls were ugly, even though they looked like those dolls. This is psychological warfare, psychological effects that we are going through as black people that stem all the way back from slavery and from everything that we have been through as a people. So now I'm not making excuses. I'm talking about actual proof. So when you look at the destruction of black people, when you look at all the violence that's going on, the murder and the killings, when you look at the whole thing with drugs, where do we find this stuff at? You got to realize, as I said before, when you look at the 50s and the early 60s, you don't see none of this stuff. It is nowhere near the level that it is now. You don't see black on black crime at this level. When did it start coming into place? When the drugs came and when hip hop music came. As I talked about in my previous video, how music can bypass the defenses of the brain and cause you to act out things subconsciously. Now, I want to go back and take a look at that video so you can understand more clear, because it's going to make a lot more sense. Take a look.
There are scientific studies that show that if someone has had surgery and you play certain types of music, the wounds, the surgical wounds will heal faster with certain types of music than with others. And that is something that goes back to synchronous and dysynchronous rhythms. Our bodies live on rhythm. Hip hop is powerful because it alters the natural rhythms of our body. That's why if you've ever been in a real nightclub where the music is real loud and the system is set up right, when you come out, your heart palpitates. And anybody who really has lived a club life knows what I'm talking about. Your heart palpitates because the beat of and that's why bass is used, because it overrides. That heavy bass, boom, boom. Whatever beat it sets to, your body tries to reset to it because you feel literally the vibration coming through the floors. And so our bodies are on a rhythm. And if you know, we should have between 60 to 90 as a normal, 50 even if you're a real athletic person, 50 to 90 beats per minute of your heart rate. These songs change that. And of course, the body is made so that you beat regularly. Sinus rhythm is a regular rhythm. The sinus node of your heart sends this rhythm out, and it should beat very regularly. But this synchronous music, what it does is it crosses up that rhythm. And so what begins to happen is you're no longer hitting every second or every 3/4 of a second a regular rhythm, because the beats are off. They're set off. Your body rhythm goes off. When that happens, your mind, everything about you, how you're oxygenated, everything that happens to you is off. And anybody knows that one of the ways to get someone high is to cause anoxia or hypoxemia, which is to lower their oxygen level. That's why we have these stories in the hospital, these young girls who suffocate themselves or strangle themselves, young boys even, trying to get this weird high. It's very popular now among young people. And people think it's suicide, but what it is a craze where people are looking for another level of high. It's satanic and it's a cult, but they'll strangle themselves from their closets. We've had reports of that even here. And they'll strangle themselves because if you can get close to being, low in your oxygen levels real low, you get a buzz, you get a high. And that is part of what happens when the music is dysynchronous enough, when the beats are off enough. If you mess with the way the heart beats, you mess with the way the body is oxygenated. And so literally your brain begins to function differently and your defenses go down, more importantly. What begins to happen then is that, first of all, regular life becomes boring. If there's something that changes the way you function and adds pleasure to it, you're going to seek that pleasure. And so it changes things. So it's hard to sit through a class. How do you sit and focus on a teacher who's simply speaking in regular English with no beat, no rhythm, no nothing, or worse? If you have a lobectomy, as it's been called, and they take out this part, you lose your personality, but you lose your ability to reason. This is where the music becomes incredibly dangerous, because out of this frontal lobe is where your reasoning center is. And what happens is there's a chemical released in your brain called dopamine that makes you feel high. And once anything does that, and music is a very good way to release dopamine and stimulate emotional response, once you do that, you seek after whatever you release dopamine for. And so music becomes a literal drug. Now, that's what cocaine does. Cocaine is a powerful dopamine agonist. It makes your brain release tons of dopamine. I keep telling you guys about how one hit of a crack cocaine, and maybe I shouldn't say this on camera because I don't want anybody to go try it, but it's about 100 to 1,000 times as powerful a release of dopamine as an orgasm is. And like we were saying last night, that's why a crack addict can go without sex. And food. Food is another way. You eat good food, dopamine is released. It's pleasurable. That's why you look forward to it. Your mouth salivates at the smell of it. Right. You begin to prepare to have it even before it's there. So what has happened to our young people is that this frontal lobe is your defense system. Music bypasses the frontal lobe. It enters. Your ears are way back here. Your frontal lobe is way up here. This is your temporal lobe. Music bypasses your frontal lobe, gets into your brain, so that when music is given to you, whatever message is tied to the music is not properly analyzed.
Now, one of the things I want you to understand is that the ancient Egyptians and most of the Africans speak a tonal language. They speak in tones. Now, Vietnamese has 11 different vowel sounds and it has 6 different tones. Now, Cantonese has a complex 6-tone system. And Thai is even a very complex tonal system, tonal language. But English has no tones at all. Now, as a matter of fact, the Rothman Research Institute in Toronto, they was actually studying, tonal language. And they realized that people who speak tonal language actually can really decipher music better than other people. Their brain is already set to the rhythm of music. So it's real easy for them to play instruments or sing and, things of that nature. So the neuroscientists at the Rothman Institute, they basically said that if you speak a tonal language, it improves how your brain hears music. It improves how your brain hears tones. And they came to the conclusion that music is a language. Now, before you speak, a stimulation occurs in the brain, and then the words, flow out. Now, people who speak in tones, when they speak, the tone of that language comes back to the brain through the ears, and it actually stimulates the brain. So the implications are people who speak a tonal language, over time actually improve a higher brain development. So basically more parts of the brain become developed and they become smarter. Now let's just think about a dog who doesn't speak English. Just think about tones here. Think about visualization. So a dog, what happens? You tell a dog to speak. After he speaks, you give him a treat. Now, the dog is going to take the representation of that treat. Whenever they see it, whatever tone comes out of your mouth, their brain is going to hear that tone and obey that command in order to get that treat. So if the tone is to speak, he's going to bark. He hear that tone. That's what he understands. He understands the tone. Dog don't understand English. It's the tone he understands. So he's going to do whatever that tone tells him in order to get that treat. Now, I want you to think of the implications of what I just said and apply it to hip hop music. Apply it to music.